This coin was minted in 54 AD. A Roman soldier earned it for a month of killing, buried in a Germanic forest after a battle, dug up by a medieval monk 3 centuries later, melted down in a Venetian mint, stolen by Napoleon's army, locked in a Swiss vault. For 2,000 years, this gold was money. In 1971, we locked it away forever. Now, money is paper, plastic, pixels. And then a bunch of anonymous coders said, we can do better. This is the story of how we went from real to unreal, and why we might never go back. Let's rewind to where this all started. Around 9000 BCE, humans figured out agriculture. We stopped chasing dinner and started growing it. Suddenly you had surplus, extra grain, extra livestock, extra stuff. And when you have extra stuff, you start trading. But here's the problem. Barter is a nightmare. You've got chickens. I want chickens, but I've only got a goat, and you hate goats. So we both starve. Barter sucks. Around 3000 BCE, Mesopotamians got smart. They started using things everyone wanted as money. Barley, silver, copper, things that didn't spoil, things you could standardize. But the real breakthrough, gold. Gold changed everything. It was rare, but not too rare. It didn't rust, didn't rot. You couldn't just make more of it. And everybody wanted it. From Egypt to Rome to China, gold became the universal language of value. Around 600 BCE, the Lydians, in what's now Turkey, minted the first official coins, stamped metal with guaranteed weight and purity. Suddenly, you didn't need to weigh and test gold every time you bought bread. The king's face on the coin was a promise. This is real. This is worth something. Trust. That's what coins represented. Not just metal, trust in authority. But here's the thing about trust. It's fragile. By the 3rd century, Rome was bleeding. Wars, rebellions, empty treasuries. So Roman emperors did what desperate leaders always do. They cheated. They started debasing the currency, adding copper and bronze to gold and silver coins while keeping the same face value. At first just a little, then more, then more. By 301 AD, Roman silver coins were 95% lies, 5% silver. Now imagine this. You're a Roman legionary. You fight, you bleed, you watch your brothers die on some frozen frontier. Payday comes. Your commander hands you a coin that looks like silver. You bite it. Soft. Fake. The empire you're dying for just paid you in garbage. Soldiers deserted. People lost faith. Inflation exploded. Some estimates suggest prices rose over 1,000% in certain regions. And when people stop trusting the money, the whole system collapses. As Finny says, you can only water down the soup so many times before people realize they're eating dishwater. Fast forward to 7th century China. Merchants were tired of carrying heavy coins across dangerous roads. Bandits, rivers, mountains. Gold is valuable, sure, but it's also really heavy. So they started leaving their coins with trusted agents and taking paper receipts instead. IOUs that promised, show this note, get your gold back. By the 11th century, around 1023 CE, the Song dynasty made it official. Government-backed paper money. Revolutionary, convenient, brilliant. And also incredibly easy to abuse. Because here's the dirty secret. If gold's value comes from scarcity, paper's value comes from restraint. And restraint, not exactly humanity's strong suit. The Song dynasty started printing more notes than they had gold to back them. Then more, then more. By the 1200s, Chinese paper money had collapsed. This pattern repeated throughout history. Berlin. A woman walks to the bakery. She needs bread. She brings a wheelbarrow full of cash, 200 billion marks for one loaf. She parks the wheelbarrow outside, steps inside for 1 second. When she comes back out, what? Someone stole the wheelbarrow, left the money. Like Finny says, the problem with imaginary money is that imagination runs wild. By the 1800s, the world tried to learn its lesson. Britain established the gold standard. Every pound note backed by actual gold sitting in the Bank of England's vaults. You could, in theory, walk in and exchange your paper for metal. Other countries followed. By 1900, most of the industrialized world was on the gold standard. It created stability, predictability. You couldn't just print money recklessly because you had to back it with something real. And then came 1914, World War I. Suddenly, governments needed massive amounts of money for the war effort. Problem? Not enough gold. Solution? Abandon the gold standard. Temporarily. Britain, France, Germany, they all started printing money without gold backing. After the war, countries tried to return to gold, but the 1920s were unstable. Then came 1929. The Great Depression hit like a sledgehammer. And in 1933, U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt did something unprecedented. He made it illegal for Americans to own gold. The government confiscated private gold at $26.17 per ounce, then immediately revalued it to $35, a 69% devaluation of the dollar overnight. The gold standard was on life support. While soldiers died on beaches in Normandy, bankers and economists gathered in a New Hampshire hotel to rewrite the rules of money. Bretton Woods. They created a new system. The U.S. dollar would be backed by gold. Every other currency would be backed by dollars. America became the financial center of the universe. But by the late 1960s, the U.S. was hemorrhaging gold. Vietnam War, social programs, promises it couldn't keep. Other countries started demanding their gold back. The vault was running empty. For 2,000 years, money meant gold. That was the deal. That was the promise. August 15, 1971. Sunday night, Nixon interrupts Bonanza. No warning, no debate, no vote. Just an announcement. I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Temporarily. It's been 53 years. And just like that, money became a promise, a belief, a bet that governments wouldn't screw it up. As Finny says, we went from show me the gold to trust me, bro.
Welcome to the age of fiat currency. Money by government decree. Money because they say so. And here's the thing. It worked. For decades, fiat currency powered unprecedented growth. Trade exploded, economies expanded. Central banks could manage crises by adjusting the money supply. Flexibility, control, modern monetary policy. But then, 2008. The global financial system nearly imploded. Lehman Brothers, gone. Bear Stearns, gone. The housing market collapsed. Trillions of dollars in wealth vanished. And governments asked themselves, how do we fix this? Their answer? Print trillions of dollars out of thin air. Quantitative easing, stimulus, bailouts. The money supply ballooned, and people started asking uncomfortable questions. If we can just print money whenever there's a crisis, what is it even worth? Who controls it? Can we trust them? October 2008, banks are collapsing, governments are panicking, and somewhere, no one knows where, someone publishes 9 pages of code, a manifesto. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Signed, Satoshi Nakamoto. Everything was about to change. Bitcoin wasn't just a new currency, it was a protest, a challenge to centralized control. Here's what made it revolutionary. No central authority, no government, no bank, no CEO. Limited supply. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. Ever. Scarcity coded into mathematics. Transparent ledger. Every transaction recorded on a public blockchain. Anyone can verify, no one can change. Money designed by math, not politicians. Scarcity enforced by cryptography, not promises. The first block, the Genesis block, was mined on January 3, 2009. Embedded in its code, a message. The Times 03/Jan 2009. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. A timestamp. A statement. A reason. Bitcoin was born from distrust. At first, it was a curiosity. In 2010, a programmer bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, worth about $41. Those same 10,000 Bitcoin, $600 million today. But slowly, then suddenly, people paid attention. By 2021, Bitcoin hit $69,000 per coin. El Salvador made it legal tender. Major corporations added it to their balance sheets. Of course, the journey hasn't been smooth. Bitcoin has died over 400 times, according to skeptics. It's crashed, recovered, crashed again. Critics call it rat poison, a bubble, a scam. Believers call it digital gold, freedom, the future. And Satoshi? No one knows who he is, or was, or if he was ever one person. He disappeared in 2011. His Bitcoin wallet holds roughly $60 billion, untouched. A ghost with more money than most countries. Like Finny says, Whether Bitcoin's the future or just an expensive lesson, it definitely made us read the fine print on what money actually is. So here we are, 2025 and beyond. We're living in the most diverse monetary ecosystem in human history. Cash still exists, barely. Credit cards dominate. Venmo, Apple Pay, PayPal. And now central banks worldwide are developing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. China's already testing the digital yuan. Europe's exploring the digital euro. The US is researching a digital dollar. These aren't cryptocurrencies. They're government-controlled, centralized digital money. Which raises new questions. What happens when every transaction is tracked? When your money can be programmed, set to expire, or restricted on what you can buy? Privacy versus control. Freedom versus stability. Meanwhile, the crypto world keeps evolving. Thousands of projects, some revolutionary, many scams. Most will fail. But here's what history teaches us. Money is never static. It's always evolving, always reflecting the values, technologies, and power structures of its time. For most of human history, money was physical, heavy, real. Then it became paper, abstract, backed by institutional trust. Now it's becoming pure information, mathematics, code. The question isn't whether money will change again. It's how. Will we move towards decentralization, where everyone is their own bank, or towards centralization where governments monitor every penny? Maybe it's both. Maybe the future isn't one system replacing another, but multiple systems coexisting, competing, evolving. Digital dollars for groceries, Bitcoin is a store of value, stablecoins for international transfers. A messy, diverse, complicated ecosystem. Look, I don't know what your wallet will look like in 20 years. Maybe Bitcoin, maybe a government digital currency, maybe something that hasn't been invented yet. But understanding how we got here, from gold coins to paper promises to digital dreams, that understanding gives you power. Power to ask better questions, make smarter choices, see through the hype and the fear, from gold to Bitcoin, and whatever comes next. The story continues. One last thing, Finny wants to know, do you trust Bitcoin more than the dollar, more than gold, or are you hedging all three? Comment your strategy below. I'm genuinely curious. And if you're here because you love stories about money, power, and the people who get the system, welcome home. Hit subscribe. You'll fit right in.